Flames roared around the ancient execution platform as the dragon woman, Saraxa Velnaris, knelt in chains, her golden scales reflecting the glow of the lava pits below. Dracarii war drums thundered. The crowd demanded her death. And then, her eyes lifted. She saw him. Captain Elias Varin froze as recognition punched through him. 5 years ago, in the blood fog of war, he had spared a young Dracarii soldier who refused to kill a wounded human. That soldier now stood moments away from execution, because of him. "Do you remember me, human?" she whispered, her voice trembling yet proud. And when the executioners raised their plasma halberds, Elias realized the truth. If he walked away, she would die, and a new war would ignite. If he intervened, he would become the spark that changed 2 species forever. With a single breath, Elias drew his weapon, and the galaxy erupted. If you believe a single act of human courage can change entire species, subscribe, because more worlds, more legends, and more HFY victories await. Ashvor Citadel rose from the molten plains like a serrated crown, its basalt towers glowing with reflections of slow-moving lava rivers below. Captain Elias Varin stood on the highest gallery with 2 human marines, trying to ignore the oppressive heat pressing against his armor. Around them, Dracarii guards watched with reptilian stillness, amber eyes sharp and suspicious. No one here had forgotten the war, even if treaties declared it finished. The execution platform waited in the center of the Colosseum-like pit. Elias had been told he was attending a cooperative tribunal, a symbolic gesture of transparency. Yet the gathered Dracarii crowd looked far more eager for blood than diplomacy. War banners hung along the terraces, their flame sigils dancing in the heat haze. The atmosphere felt like a volcano holding its breath. A thunderous war drum boomed, shaking dust from the stone. A procession emerged from an archway carved with ancient fire runes. At its center strode Commander Kerox Dravel, obsidian-scaled armor gleaming under the flame-lit sky. He raised a clenched fist, and the crowd fell silent with unnerving precision. "Children of Flame," Kerox declared, voice magnified by concealed amplifiers, "today we purge the stain of treachery." A second archway opened. The prisoner stepped into view. Elias stiffened. The heat around him vanished, replaced by a cold shock that cut straight through bone. The Dracarii woman in chains, bruised, bloodied, proud even in captivity, was someone he had not expected to see again in this lifetime. Saraxa. He recognized the golden scales along her temples, the angular face marked by faint scars, and the horn sweep that once caught battlefield smoke like a crest. Her appearance had matured, but the memory of her kneeling in ash years ago, lowering her weapon instead of killing him, was unmistakable. Sergeant Cole leaned close. "Sir, do you know her?" "No," Elias said quietly, though his pulse betrayed him. Saraxa was forced to her knees at the platform's center. The chains binding her wrists, ankles, and neck were anchored to thick metal rings embedded into the stone. Yet she kept her posture straight, refusing to bow. The war drum ceased, leaving a silence filled with simmering hate. Kerox paced behind her like a predator. "This one is Saraxa Velnaris of the Ember Clutch," he announced. "Accused of aiding humans during the war and disgracing her sacred flame. Evidence confirms she saved a human officer. For such betrayal, only dissolution awaits." A holoscreen flickered alive above the platform. It displayed grainy, spliced footage of a Dracarii soldier dragging a human from rubble. Explosions muffled the words, twisting them into fragments stripped of meaning. Elias knew instantly the recording had been altered. What he remembered was different, Saraxa shielding him despite orders to finish him. The crowd hissed, scales brushing like rustling metal. Kerox gestured toward the screen. She protected the enemy. She chose weakness over loyalty. "What do we call her?" "Traitor!" Thousands roared together. Saraxa finally lifted her head. Her gaze traveled over the terraces, past banners and flames, until it locked onto Elias. Recognition brightened her wounded features, and something unspoken passed between them, an unbroken thread stretched across years. She remembered. Elias's throat tightened. He should have looked away. He didn't. Kerox stepped between them. "For this crime, her flame ends now." Two executioners ignited their plasma halberds, twin blades humming with lethal radiance. They positioned themselves beside Saraxa, weapons angled inward. The glow cast sharp shadows across her scales. "Any last words?" Kerox asked. Saraxa did not look at him. She turned her head slightly, eyes finding Elias again across the divide. Her voice carried with perfect clarity, resonant even in its softness. "I remembered your mercy, human. Will you remember mine?" Cole swore under his breath. "Sir, what is she talking?" Elias didn't hear him. His muscles moved before thought formed. He slammed both palms against the railing. "Marines, move." He vaulted the gallery's edge, dropping onto the lower terrace. Pain jolted up his legs, but he kept running. Dracarii guards shouted, some trying to block his path, others stunned by the audacity of a human officer charging the sacred execution ground. Cole and the second Marine opened fire with stun rounds, blue arcs snapping through the air and dropping guards without lethal damage. Elias sprinted down the final steps toward the platform while alarms blared through the citadel. Kerox spun, cloak twisting like smoke. "Stop them!" An executioner swung at Elias, the plasma blade tearing through the air. Elias ducked and fired a stun bolt that overloaded the halberd's energy field, sending the Dracarii crashing backward. Cole's next shot dropped the second executioner before he could recover. Elias reached Saraxa and knelt. Up close, he saw the injuries marring her scales, the exhaustion etched into her features. "You should not have come," she said. "We can argue later," Elias replied. "Can you stand?" "If I must." He disabled the magnetic restraints around her wrists and ankles. The neck shackle hissed open. Before he could help her rise, Kerox seized his shoulder with crushing strength. "You desecrate sacred judgment," the warlord snarled. "You doctored evidence to kill her." Elias shot back, twisting free. "That isn't judgment." Saraxa stood, chains dangling from her wrists. "He fears truth," she said steadily. "Not treachery." More guards rushed the platform. "Cole!" Elias barked. "Exit. North wall, tribunal seal." Cole answered. 10 seconds before this place locks down." Elias grabbed Saraxa's arm. "Move." They leapt from the platform, sprinting through chaos as stun bolts and blades flashed around them. Saraxa stumbled once. Elias caught her, hauling her upright without slowing. Smoke choked the air from ignited banners and ruptured braziers. Cole slapped a charge against the stone emblem of the Dracarii Justice Flame. The explosion shattered the wall, revealing a dark passage. "Go!" he shouted. Elias pushed Saraxa through the breach. They plunged into the citadel's understructure as Kerox's furious roar echoed behind them. "Find them. Bring me the human's head, and the traitor's heart." The tunnel sloped downward into darkness, lit only by the flicker of failing emergency strips along the ceiling. Elias pushed forward with Saraxa leaning against him, her breath uneven but controlled. The air smelled of old ash, metallic dust, and the faint mineral scent unique to Dracarii stonework. Behind them, alarms reverberated through the walls like distant thunder. Sergeant Cole slid down the incline after them, weapon raised. "We've got about 2 minutes before Kerox locks the lower gates. After that, every exit seals." Elias nodded. "We reach the surface before that happens." Saraxa steadied herself. "These tunnels lead to the Ember Wastes. They were carved during the First Brood era. Few living Dracarii know them." Cole raised an eyebrow. "And you do." "I learned to navigate forgotten places." She glanced at Elias. "After the war." Elias didn't respond. He kept moving, flashlight cutting through the dark. The path opened into a narrow corridor lined with ancient glyphs. Fire symbols curled across the walls, depicting warriors, beasts, and rising suns. Saraxa touched a cracked carving with reverent fingertips. "My ancestors believed this place guided leaders into trials. Kerox would burn it if he dared." Elias shot her a quick look. "He wants power. History threatens him." "Yes," she said softly. "And so do you." They hurried onward. The passage curved sharply before ending at a rusted grate. Elias braced himself and kicked hard. The metal snapped free, clattering into a cavern beyond. A gust of superheated wind blew in. The ember wastes lay outside. They emerged atop a jagged ridge overlooking a landscape that shifted between glowing magma veins and black volcanic plains. Geysers of steam erupted periodically from fractured earth. Overhead, a dim red sun cast a heated pall across the horizon. Cole exhaled sharply. Feels like walking into a furnace. Syraxa steadied herself against the ridge wall. It is inhospitable to most species. My people survived here through endurance. Humans are not built for this. Elias scanned the area. We adapt. She gave him a look he couldn't interpret. They descended the ridge carefully, skirting patches of unstable rock. Elias kept one hand near Syraxa in case she faltered again. Her injuries slowed her. Every few steps she winced, but she refused assistance unless absolutely necessary. Behind them, distant echoes thundered, pursuers spilling into the tunnels. Cole frowned. They're closing in. We increase the pace, Elias said. Syraxa shook her head. Speed alone won't save us. The ember wastes hide more dangers than soldiers. Jagged pits, ash storms, fissures that swallow entire caravans. Then guide us, Elias said. Tell us where to step. She hesitated, then nodded. They moved into a narrow valley bordered by lava streams. The ground vibrated underfoot. Distant tremors rolled across the terrain. Syraxa raised her hand, stopping them. This way, she said, pointing toward a fissure. There is an old shelter carved into the wall. We can rest there briefly. Rest was not a luxury Elias wanted, but Syraxa's breathing had grown labored, and her scales around the ribs darkened where bruises deepened. She was losing strength fast. The fissure led them into a shallow cavern wide enough for 3 people to crouch inside. The stone walls radiated trapped heat, but at least it offered cover. Syraxa sat slowly, leaning back with a soft groan. Elias knelt beside her. Pain level? He asked. She huffed a strained breath. Survivable. That isn't a number. She tilted her head. Humans measure everything. And Dracarii pretend pain is nothing, he countered. A faint smile touched her lips. Perhaps. Cole stood guard near the entrance, listening for movement. Elias inspected her injuries without touching. Her armor plating was cracked, and the scales along her ribs were discolored. You shouldn't have shielded me earlier. You needed protection. Karox was aiming for you. I made my choice, she said. Just as you made yours. Elias lowered his voice. Why didn't you deny the accusations? You could have lied. Saved yourself. Lies are for the fearful, she replied. I acted with honor. If my people sentence me for choosing mercy, then they are unworthy of the truth. He studied her. She wasn't reckless. She was principled to the point of pain. Syraxa met his gaze steadily. Do you think I should have begged for life? No, Elias said. But I think your life matters more than your pride. Her expression softened. You have changed since the war. So have you. She looked away. Your face stayed burned into my memory longer than I expected. The words hit Elias harder than he anticipated. You remembered me? Dracarii imprint deeply, she said quietly. Not romantically, not mystically. But when someone spares our flame, the memory marks us permanently. On the day you let me live, I vowed to repay the debt. I did not expect repayment to require my death. It doesn't, Elias said firmly. I didn't save you only for this to happen. She studied him a long moment. Then why intervene? Treaties forbid interference. Because the trial was a lie, he said. And because I could not watch them kill you. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. Before either could speak again, a series of sharp screeches pierced the air outside. Cole stepped back quickly. Contacts, he whispered. Not soldiers. Something else. Syraxa's eyes widened. Ash wings. Elias shifted. Explain. They hunt in packs. They sense movement through heat patterns. The screeches grew louder. Elias peered out. Shadows flitted across the rocks, wings stretched wide like skeletal membranes. Their glowing orange eyes scanned the terrain. We move, Elias said. Now. Syraxa pushed herself upright with difficulty. Elias grabbed her arm, steadying her without ceremony. She didn't protest. They slipped out the opposite side of the fissure, moving low and fast across uneven ground. The ash wings circled overhead, turning as if tasting their trail. Cole muttered, "Hate this planet." Syraxa guided them toward a narrow trench. There is a hidden path leading deeper into the wastes. If we reach it, the creatures will lose our heat signature. How far? Elias asked. Far enough. They hurried into the trench, stones cutting at their boots. The ash wings screeched again, diving low. Elias fired a stun round skyward. The creature veered sharply, wings flaring. That only buys seconds, Syraxa warned. Then we use them. They sprinted the remaining distance until Syraxa pointed toward a dark opening in the cliffside. That leads to the Temple of the First Brood, she said. Our only safe destination. Elias glanced back as more ash wings gathered. Then we go, he said. All the way. Together, they slipped into the shadows of an ancient world that had been waiting for them. The tunnel leading into the cliffside opened into a vaulted chamber lit by faint lines of molten rock threading through the stone. Elias swept his flashlight slowly across the interior. The walls were carved with intricate spirals and flame symbols, older and more elaborate than any he had seen in the citadel. The air carried a metallic tang mixed with ancient dust. Sergeant Cole stepped beside him. This place is massive. How old is it? Syraxa traced her hand along a carved ridge. Older than recorded time. The First Brood shaped these halls before our clans existed. She swallowed hard, voice trembling faintly. No ordinary Dracarii enters here. It is a sacred ruin. Elias scanned the chamber. Will Karox follow us? No, she said. He fears anything older than his own authority. Sacred sites weaken him. Good, Cole muttered. One problem solved. Syraxa's legs wavered. Elias moved quickly, catching her before she fell. Her scales felt fever-hot beneath his gloves. You're still bleeding, he said. We need to stop and assess your injuries. I can stand, she insisted. You don't need to, Elias said firmly. She closed her eyes, allowing him to lower her onto a smooth stone bench. Ancient patterns glowed faintly beneath them, responding to her presence like embers stirred by breath. That reaction, Cole said. Normal. Syraxa exhaled slowly. Only for one who carries the old blood. Elias knelt beside her. Meaning you. She hesitated, then nodded. My mother belonged to the royal line of the First Brood's guardians. My blood carries their resonance. Karox always despised that connection. Because it threatens his power? Yes. The old blood binds us to truth and duty. He craves domination instead. Elias cleaned a gash along her side with a sterile wipe. She tensed but didn't pull away. You should have told me sooner, he said quietly. You asked for survival, not lineage. A distant rumble vibrated through the chamber. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Elias instinctively drew his rifle. Earthquake? Cole asked. No, Syraxa said. The temple awakens when inheritors enter. The floor markings pulsed brighter. A deep hum rose from unseen mechanisms. Elias stiffened. What exactly is awakening? Syraxa pushed herself upright. The core. It holds the relics of the First Brood, memory stones, flame seeds, ancestral records. My people believe they carry warnings for future generations. Warnings about what? She turned toward the chamber's far wall where a massive circular door loomed, engraved with a constellation shaped like a rising dragon. About the war our ancestors feared most, the war between flame and world. Elias and Cole exchanged looks. Humanity wasn't around when those prophecies formed, Elias said. Saraxa gave him a strange look. That is precisely the point. She stepped toward the door. The carvings glowed warmer as she approached. When she placed her hand upon its center, the stone shifted, mechanisms grinding open with ancient weight. A passage beyond illuminated with amber light. Cole whistled softly. This is wild. Elias followed Saraxa cautiously. You really think this prophecy connects to us? Yes, she replied. The first brood foresaw an outsider race, one not born of flame, who would shape the future of our people. Older scholars believed it symbolized catastrophe. Others believed it meant salvation. Which interpretation do you follow? Elias asked. She looked at him, the amber glow reflecting in her gold-ringed eyes. I chose hope long before today. They entered the inner sanctum. The chamber expanded into a wide circular hall with a raised dais at its center. A crystalline orb hung above it, suspended by energy threads shimmering like molten glass. Runes spiraled from its core in slow rotation. Saraxa inhaled deeply. The flame heart. Cole kept a safe distance. What does it do? Records truths seen by our ancestors. It responds to bloodlines. It reveals destiny. Elias frowned. We don't need destiny. We need safety. Both may be intertwined, Saraxa said. She approached the dais and cut a small line across her palm. When her blood touched the stone, the chamber erupted with light. Symbols surged around her. Dragons, flames, stars, and humanoid silhouettes. One figure appeared repeatedly, a tall, upright shape without wings or scales. A human. Cole stepped back. No way. Elias stared, stunned. That's not possible. Saraxa watched the holographic script unfurl like fire-born wind. The outsider race. The ones who rise without flame. They arrive wounded by conflict, yet carry something our people lack. What something? Elias asked. Saraxa placed her uninjured hand flat against the stone. Capacity for mercy without blood debt. A concept the first brood considered impossible. She turned toward him slowly. The prophecy speaks of a warrior who spares a life that should have been claimed. That act begins the merging of two legacies. Elias's breath hitched. You think that refers to? Yes, she said. To you. He stepped back, disbelief tightening his chest. I'm just a soldier. I acted on instinct. Instinct shaped by your species, Saraxa said. Humans fight fiercely, yet protect even enemies when conscience demands it. That duality does not exist among Dracarii. Cole raised his weapon. Movement. From the shadows of the hall's perimeter, shapes crawled forward, Dracarii war beasts, armored naturally with volcanic plating. Their multiple eyes glowed molten orange as they advanced. Karox sent them, Saraxa said. He would not enter himself, but he commands creatures immune to sacred fear. Elias aimed. We hold the center. Cole, left flank. The beast screeched, charging across the stone. Elias fired precise bursts, stunning one mid-stride. Another leapt, claws extended. Cole rolled aside, blasting its underbelly with a jolt that sent it crashing into a pillar. Saraxa tried to rise but staggered. A beast lunged at her. Elias darted forward, firing point-blank into its face. The creature collapsed, smoke rising from its jaw. Stay behind me, Elias ordered. I can still fight, Saraxa insisted. And I can still protect, he replied. Before she could answer, the flame heart pulsed violently. Energy arced outward, forming a barrier around the dais. Elias and Saraxa were caught inside, Cole outside with two remaining beasts. Cole fought them back, firing bursts that echoed through the hall. Saraxa turned toward Elias. The relic chose you. Why would it choose me? Because you shape futures without meaning to. The flame heart's light swirled around Elias, responding to his proximity. The rune shifted again, projecting an image of two suns rising side by side over a united skyline, Dracarii spires and human towers intertwined. Elias lowered his weapon slowly. "That's not prophecy. That's hope." Syrax's voice softened. "Hope becomes prophecy when someone refuses to let it die." The beasts shrieked again. Cole shouted, "We can't hold much longer." The central door slammed open. Karox entered, eyes blazing, aura radiating fury. "All traitors burn today," he roared. Elias stepped between Syraxa and the warlord as the temple itself trembled with awakened fire. Karox strode into the sanctum like a living storm, armored plates clashing with each step. The remaining beasts scrambled aside, sensing a fury greater than their own. His molten eyes locked onto Syraxa first, then Elias, and the hatred in that gaze felt ancient. "So this is where the rot began," Karox snarled. "A sacred temple corrupted by human filth." Elias leveled his rifle. "You corrupted justice long before I arrived." Karox's lips curled. "Your existence corrupts balance. Dracarii strength weakened the day mercy infected our flame." His eyes flicked to Syraxa. "And you, royal-blooded disgrace. I should have ended your line years ago." Syraxa forced herself upright. "You fear the old blood because it reminds you of truths you cannot control." "I fear nothing," Karox growled, "except the future you both threaten." He raised a gauntlet hand. Energy surged, commanding the beasts to attack. Cole shouted from across the hall, firing at two advancing creatures. Elias pivoted, hitting another before it closed the distance. Claws scraped stone, voices echoed, chaos erupted around the chamber. Karox stepped through the crossfire untouched. Syraxa staggered. Elias caught her, pulling her behind the energy barrier still flickering from the flame heart. "We need the relic's core," she said breathlessly. "Inside it lies the final activation, one only our blood and your presence can initiate." Elias scanned the dais. "Show me." She pressed her palm against a rune on the stone platform. A portion slid aside, revealing a crystalline chamber beneath. Symbols pulsed faintly, awaiting input. "Hurry!" Cole yelled. "I'm running out of shots." Syraxa's voice trembled. "Place your hand on the core. The relic will read your intent." "And do what?" "Shift the temple's flame from war to unity." Elias exhaled. "Hope this thing understands human intent better than most Dracarii." He pressed his hand against the core. A shock of energy surged through him, heat without pain, fire without burning. The runes spiraled upward, forming luminous patterns that encircled him, bathing him in soft gold. The relic responded instantly. Karox roared. "Blasphemy!" He lunged toward the dais, ignoring a stun bolt from Cole that barely staggered him. The beasts followed, howling as they neared the barrier. Syraxa reached toward Elias. "The relic needs my blood now, only a drop." He sliced her palm gently with his knife, helping her press it to the glowing core. Blood merged with light, and the Flameheart's energy shifted from amber to brilliant white. A pulse erupted outward. Time seemed to still. The beasts collapsed instantly, knocked unconscious but unharmed. Cole shielded his face as the light washed over him. Karox staggered, his armor cracking under the intensity. The relic's pulse showed restraint, disabling, not destroying. Elias felt the same message through the energy. This was a flame that spared. When the light faded, Karox was the only one still standing. Barely. He tore the last fragments of cracked armor from his shoulders and pointed a clawed finger at Elias. "You twist ancient truths," he hissed. "The prophecy foretold doom, not salvation. Outsiders bring ruin." Elias stepped down from the dais. "Prophecies don't kill worlds. People who fear change do." Karox charged. Elias dodged the first strike, the claws cutting deep gouges into the stone. The second swipe grazed his armor, sending sparks flying. Elias countered with a hard strike to Karox's jaw, making the warlord reel. But Karox recovered instantly, slamming Elias into a pillar with brutal force. "You think compassion wins wars?" Kerox growled. "Weakness invites extinction." Elias pushed back, refusing to yield. "Compassion prevents extinction. That's why humans survived our own history." He struck again, aiming for vulnerable joints. Kerox roared, grabbing Elias by the throat and lifting him off the ground. "Human fragility disgusts me. You break so easily." "Maybe," Elias managed. "But we keep getting back up." He slammed his knee into Kerox's torso, forcing the grip to loosen. Saraxa, despite her injuries, hurled a fragment of broken stone. It cracked against Kerox's skull, staggering him long enough for Elias to throw himself free. Kerox turned toward her, fury blazing. "You dare strike me?" Elias launched himself at the warlord before he could reach her. He drove Kerox back with relentless blows fueled not by hatred but by something deeper, determination to protect what mattered. "You want flame," Elias said. "Here's mine." He rammed his shoulder into Kerox, sending them both crashing to the floor. Kerox swung wildly. Elias dodged and drove a final punch across the warlord's jaw, snapping his head sideways. Kerox collapsed. A long silence followed. Cole limped over. "Tell me that's finally over." Elias stared at the fallen warlord. "It is." Saraxa approached slowly. "Kerox's reign ends here. Without him, the extremists lose their anchor." Elias looked back at the Flameheart. "What happens now?" "The relic chooses the path forward," she said. "But my people must accept it." "And you?" Elias asked. Saraxa met his gaze with quiet intensity. "I will stand where the relic demands." Hours later, in the upper chamber of the temple, Dracarii elders arrived. Cole had sent a distress beacon. Human and Dracarii peacekeepers had tracked its signal. They found Kerox defeated, the beast subdued, and the Flameheart still glowing above the dais. Saraxa addressed the council with steady authority. Kerox manipulated justice and sought war. The relic has revealed a different future, one forged through unity. I offer myself as witness to its truth. The elders murmured, some skeptical, some awed. Elias stood beside her, weapon lowered, posture calm. He wasn't sure what role he played now, but Saraxa hadn't allowed him to leave her side. One elder stepped forward. "Human, what did the relic show you?" "A future where we don't destroy each other," Elias replied. "Where mercy isn't seen as weakness." Another elder looked at Saraxa. "The prophecy marks a joining, not a separation." "Yes," she said. "Our flames rise stronger together." The council bowed, slowly, reluctantly at first, then fully. "The tribunal pardons Saraxa Velnaris," the eldest declared, "and acknowledges the outsider's role in restoring balance." Saraxa exhaled, finally allowing her tension to release. Elias felt something shift in his chest. At sunset, the two stood at the cliff's edge outside the temple. The twin suns dipped low, their combined light painting the horizon in gold and crimson. Saraxa glanced at Elias. "You altered the course of our people." "We altered it," he corrected. "Together." She studied him a moment. "I remembered your face because it changed my life. And now, it may shape my future." Elias smiled faintly. "Then let's walk into it without fear." The twin suns rose higher, reflecting in their eyes, two species standing at the dawn of something new.